there's also a few misconceptions about what can help burnout, which can do more harm than good. And I want to share those with you before I jump into a real strategy of how to overcome burnout. Now, the first thing is that taking a break will solve burnout, right? Now, taking a break will definitely be beneficial, okay? However, if it's just temporary, it's not going to be enough, right? If we take a 2-week holiday and then go back to work and everything else is still there, then when we're just putting like a band-aid over a bullet wound, right? We're not actually addressing the nature of burnout itself. We need to look at those systemic issues that are going on. So taking a break can help. It can be a great first step. However, it is exactly that. It's a first step, not a solution. The other thing that is a common misconception around burnout is that the way to overcome it is to ignore our emotions and our feelings in relation to it, right? And that's in all domains, right? So people say, oh, I'm stressed out about work, or I'm feeling really burned out. Okay, take 2 weeks off of work. And then when you go back to work, just turn your phone off when you come home, and focus somewhere else, focus on your relationships. And again, suppressing the emotions that are related to that heightened stress over a prolonged period of time actually worsens the stress. Those red flags, those red traffic lights will just keep on jumping if we try to ignore them. We also have, and this is a myth here as well, is that we think that being on perhaps technology or taking a break from whatever you've got going on in your daily life to go on your phone is actually helping you, but in fact it's going to be hindering you a lot more and contributing to burnout rather than actually helping you overcome it, because we become very over reliant on digital devices, okay, and it's creating more disconnect. Okay, so believing that the solution is almost distraction to some extent is also going to do more harm than good. Another common thing I hear people say when it comes to burnout is like, I feel like I just need to go and live in a cabin in the woods and just be on my own for a while, right? And isolating yourself is not a solution. Again, it can be a good first step. However, it's not going to help in the long term get to the root cause of burnout itself. Okay. So those are just a few of kind of the misconceptions. So pause again for a moment and just check if you're falling into any of those, because they will be well-intentioned behaviors. However, they can sometimes be traps. And I know I've fallen into those traps, so don't worry, it's very natural. But hopefully you know which ones to avoid, and you can start to make a note of them in your journal. So if we buy into some of these old misconceptions and don't address it, there could be consequences like mental illness, health conditions, strained relationships, loss of belonging, severe drop in performance, which can then result in job losses or financial strain as well. So the best way to overcome burnout is to actually understand how you got here and what has been going on and what's going on the inside the body. And as we stay on the roller coaster, right, on the way to burnout, we then actually start to reveal more core issues behind burnout, right? So behind this piece of burnout, there are 6 core things to pay attention to. So again, make a note of these, okay? And I'm going to do perhaps some more episodes on these 6 individually as well, so it's a bit easier to digest and so that I can go into it in more detail. But for now, just having your awareness of these 6 are going to be really important, because our awareness of these 6 helps us to overcome burnout as we continue on the path. So the first one is lack of awareness and regulation. This is usually a core issue. So basically, our nervous system starts to get stuck, right? It gets stuck into a certain state. So imagine that your nervous system is like a symphony, right? When the stresses are at play and it's too loud, it disrupts the harmony that is inside your system, right? We need to regulate the nervous system like a skilled conductor, right? Balancing the instruments and ensuring this beautiful composition. This is what we need to do. We need to bring our nervous system back from burnout and bring it into a state of repair and recovery. The second core issue, right, after a dysregulated nervous system is looking at unresolved past experiences. So I mentioned on the roller coaster example that stress adds up, stress compounds. And actually, when we're burned out, it gives opportunity for all past stresses and emotions to come up as well. So if you imagine that you have been like collecting all these little stressors for your whole life. You've been picking them up and you've been putting them in your backpack, one little rock after another into that backpack, little rocks of stress as you go. It can be big things, little things. Over time, and when we get to the point of burnout, that backpack is too heavy and it will pull you down, right? And all of a sudden, all of these rocks, all of these past experiences fall out, right? And at that point, we need to start to resolve some of these issues, because if we don't resolve those issues, often we stay stuck in that state of burnout. So the third core issue that burnout can start to represent, what's behind burnout, is a mismatched value system, right? If you imagine that your values are like a compass needle, right? You've got a compass in front of you, and when your values are aligned, it's very clear, you know what direction you're going in, right? You can read the compass easy. But if you have your values, your personal values, and what's important to you in life, and they are mismatched, and you're not living in alignment to those values, it's like that needle on the compass just spinning in different directions. We don't know where we are. We don't know if we're coming or going, right? So by aligning our values, we actually start to like get on the same page, right? And your compass can start to take you where it is you need to go, providing clear direction for your life and reducing any kind of inner conflict that is wasting energy that could be contributing to your burnout recovery. The fourth issue that I see around burnout is our ability to feel safe inside and outside of the body. We get stuck into this state where we feel like we're under threat, or we feel like we're stuck. We go into this primal survival zone. And when we're in that space, it's like we're constantly being chased by a lion, even though we're not, and we're safely at home in our own space, right? So our ability to feel safe becomes compromised. So we need to start to look at, how do we learn to feel safe inside of our body? How can we make sure our environment is safe, and that you're recognizing and you can sense that it's safe as well? That's one of the kind of antidotes to being able to feel safe inside your body. The fifth core issue is physical needs being met, right? And that is physical shelter, right? Making sure that you are in a safe space, making sure that you can process and absorb nutritious food, right? Making sure that you are hydrated, making sure that you're putting some good fuel into this system to keep the energy running, right? Our physical needs are probably one of the first things that starts to slide when burnout creeps in, because self-care starts to get neglected. But it's happened so gradually, we don't always notice it. And even if you do start to pick up on it, you think, oh, I'm going to eat a bit healthier now because I'm feeling tired, I'm feeling depleted, and you're recognizing some of those symptoms. If we're already too far down the rabbit hole, it doesn't matter how much healthy food you eat, your body cannot absorb it because your stress hormones are so high, right? And your adrenals and your digestive system, it's all depleted so much that it's now all out of balance, that we need to start to get it back into balance. So if you feel like you've been trying your best to meet your physical needs, but it's just still not working, there is a chance that you need to seek some professional support here as well. And last but not least, okay, the biggest core issue that I see that is linked to burnout, and the cause of it and the solution, the recovery of it, is fulfilling our 6 psychological needs. So psychologically, we need to have a sense of certainty, variety, love and connection, significance, the need to feel importance, growth, and contribution. If these 6 psychological needs are not being met over a prolonged period of time, we can start to feel really, really bad. And combined with the other 5 that I've just mentioned, it's a very, very slippery slope. So these are just the core issues that we've noticed. Now, the good news is when we are aware of these core issues, we can start to actually unpack them. Now, you're more than welcome to go back and listen to this part of this episode and really reflect on what those 6 mean for you. However, I do recommend that if that sounds overwhelming, and it's okay if it does, that you may want to explore these issues with a professional. Okay, it's highly, highly recommended. And if you are in a state of absolute burnout and you feel like you are struggling right now, please reach out to somebody that can support you, whether it be a therapist, a psychologist, a stress relief specialist. If it is somebody that you just know, like, and trust, reach out to them. It's an amazing first step. Okay. But I know you want more, right? I know I've been talking for a while now, but I promise you, the next 5 steps is how you can now start to overcome burnout from where you are right now. Things that you can start to do. So step 1 is recognize and own it. One of the biggest issues with burnout and why we stay in it for so long is because we're almost in denial. We don't want to admit that there's something wrong, or we don't want to change things in our life because it's sometimes easier to stay in that discomfort and in that pain, right? And also sometimes there's a bit of shame in admitting defeat, like I need help. But the reality is like there's no shame in asking for help. If anything, that's the massive sign of strength. And the minute we're able to recognize and own it, then we get to change, right? That's the needle mover. That's the bit that changes the game. So step 1 is, if you recognize burnout in everything I've been talking about today, own it. Literally write it down on paper. I am experiencing burnout right now. I am experiencing this symptom. That's a symptom. I am feeling burned out, right? Just own it. And from there, you can then do step 2, which is to prioritize recovery, right? Now, the duration of burnout recovery varies from person to person. There's a lot of data to support that we don't actually recover from burnout until about 18 months after, right, the onset. So it can be a long path. It can be a shorter path, of course, as well. But your ability to own where you are and then to choose to prioritize it, even if you don't know how you're going to prioritize it yet, just choose that it is going to be a factor that you're going to focus on. That's going to help no end. Step 3 is to communicate your needs. Okay. Now, this could be maybe time that you need. It might be people that you need to speak to. It might be resources that you need. It might be a short break, right? To start the process of your recovery. Communicating what you need to yourself and then to somebody that can support you is going to be extremely powerful. And that might be a partner, that might be a friend, that might be a work colleague, that might be your boss, it might be HR. Communicate your needs as best you possibly can. Step 4 is self-compassion. I mentioned shame and embarrassment and perhaps a negative thought pattern, all right, associated with what you're experiencing. Meeting ourselves with compassion is so important, so powerful, because there's no point you kicking yourself while you are down, right? We do so much better when we are spoken to from a place of love and we are experiencing acts of love, right? But that comes from self, not just things and people around you. So perhaps being a little bit kinder to yourself. Allow yourself the space to prioritize your recovery. Allow yourself a hot soak in the bath and put in something that's pending down for a moment. Sit with your thoughts, sit with your feelings as if they're a small child and ask yourself, what would you say to them? Sometimes it's a really easy way to tap into compassion. Step number 5 is to address the physical health first. Okay, so depending on your symptoms, recommending obviously a doctor, but looking at different lifestyle tweaks that you can make, increasing your water intake, increasing your nutrition, or nutritious foods, movement, getting fresh air, taking moments to breathe. Address your physical health first, because as soon as our energy starts to pick up a little bit and we've got that solid foundation, we can then go and start to unpack those 6 core issues that I mentioned earlier. Now, I'm very aware that that is a lot of information. So just pause for a moment, breathe, take those steps in and just ask yourself, which step are you ready to take? And take it one step at a time. All right. So our team have actually developed a diagnostic scorecard where you can actually see exactly what you need. It will measure how you're doing day to day, how your body is coping, where your stress or burnout is stemming from. And in less than 2 minutes, it will generate a report for you, which will highlight exactly what you're doing well right now, and then actionable tips on how to improve immediately as well. So once your score's been calculated, you'll get that tailored report straight to your inbox, and it's completely free. It's been designed to help, nothing more, nothing less. I remember, when I experienced burnout, I wish I'd had access to a tool like this, because at least I would have had a starting point, right? So that's kind of our gift to you. off the back of staying in this episode for so long. But what's really, really important is that you know that overcoming burnout is a gradual process, but one that feels like a weight's being lifted. Like there's this like mental haze, this fog, it will start to lift. I promise you that. And maybe you're thinking you don't have time for it, but it was Jim Goodwin that once said, if we don't have time, that is the time we need to do it the most, right? That's the time. That is the time. That is the sign. That is the signal. Prioritizing your recovery is going to allow you to start feeling connected to yourself, to those you love again. You'll be able to feel energized and engaged in your life again in the ways that you enjoy. You'll be thinking clearly and able to perform again in the ways that you want to. And you'll have a confidence that you can just step into the world again, right? And you'll know yourself again, and you'll find that zest of life again. All right. So to wrap up, overcoming burnout is about listening to your experience of it, physically, mentally, and emotionally, okay, and seek help when needed. Reflect on your core issues that are underpinning burnout and give those 5 immediate steps a try. I am thinking, like I said, of doing a separate episode for each of the 6 core issues that are underpinning burnout, like I mentioned, and more specific episodes on the different types of burnout also. So let me know what you want, and I'll make sure these episodes are created especially for you. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, please be well.
If you enjoyed this episode and you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode.
Then share it with a friend who you think might benefit.
Spread the word. That's how we're going to impact the world, by helping each other.
We appreciate you so much, and as always, unconditional love and wellness to you.